Thank you for your patience. I would like to go ahead and call to order the City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015. At this time, we'd like to invite Pastor Rusty Akers from Community of Hope Church up to give us an invocation, after which we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice Mayor Brown. If you'd all please stand.
God of the universe, we just come to you tonight, God, and ask for peace. God, we've all endured much tragedy and pain and sorrow in the last month in our community, Father. And God, I just pray that you would just continue to encourage us as a community to rally together. May your Spirit be out ahead of us, Father, in this coming year. Again, God, we just pray for peace in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. Thank you, Vice Mayor. That'll take us to the roll call, please.
Councilmember Kimball. Here. Councilmember Manfredi. Here. Councilmember Smith. Here. Councilmember Wade. Here. Vice Mayor Brown. Here. Mayor Price.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate your patience again. As I said before, we apologize for the delay. Just been a very long day with a lot of things going on, and had to try and get them all in, including an important needs session. So that takes us on to the proclamations, acknowledgments, and awards, which you have none. That'll take us to the report from the mayor. I'll try and be brief. Just a couple of quick things as it pertains. Let's make sure I have this paperwork here. Here we go. A couple of things. There's been many things said earlier in the work session of things that we attended. I pretty much say ditto to most of them because I was at all of them as well. At least I tried to be. But I did have the opportunity to, between last meeting and this meeting, attend the Rural Transportation Summit. That actually was really well attended, and it was important for us to be there. It just so happens that the ADOT issue happened at the same time that we had out here on the road. Many of you probably saw that or saw it on Facebook. And we've since cleared that up, but it was very helpful to be there because the director of ADOT was there. And so because we're able to stand in the same buffet line or anything else, we were able to work out those details and issues. And so that's what making relationships is all about when you have a front row seat to working out the problems. So that was a good thing. It also culminated with the ADOT meeting that was held in Flagstaff. I was able to attend that, and just wanted to give a shout out. Former Mayor Kelly Anderson was elected officially as the chair of the State Board of Transportation. So that's a really big deal. We're appreciative for that, and just like I said before, having those connections is really, really helpful. Also had the opportunity to attend the Tribal Legislative Day today. City of Maricopa helps sponsor that each and every year. There's a lot of value in that as we currently sit, obviously, between Gila River and Ak-Chin. Our relationships with them is absolutely crucial, as they're our friends and our neighbors. And so we sincerely appreciate all that they do for us, but we wanted to show our support and our triumph of them, and anything we can do to show them that we appreciate them, and so we attended that today. Also had the opportunity to attend the Gila River inauguration. Council members, tomorrow, Ak-Chin has had 2 new elected members of their 5-member council, and tomorrow is their inauguration in the morning at the Justice Center, and so just as an FYI. And then, finally, this Saturday is the City of Maricopa pageant, in which we have the opportunity to crown a new Miss City of Maricopa. In case of those of you who don't know, it is a scholarship program, but we've actually been really fortunate here in the fact that we've actually had not only a Miss City of Maricopa, but they went on to compete as Miss Arizona. And so Miss Arizona was from here. And then that person went on to compete in the Miss USA pageant. So pretty neat to have that on our record for a city that's not even 10 years old yet. So we're pretty fortunate in that. If you get a chance, please find out when and where that's going on. I know it's going on in this Saturday evening at the MUSD Theater. So if you get a chance to come on by, I would love to see you. Finally, just wanted to announce the official couple of the longstanding committees, or subcommittees for the council. Council members, we've done the assignments for the BFO. Councilmember Kimball and Councilmember Chapados will join me on the Budget, Finance, and Operations Committee. On the Personnel and Benefits, Vice Mayor Brown, Councilmember Manfredi will join me on that committee. And then finally, for Marketing and Communications, Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Wade will join me on that as well. So lots of work ahead of us, and I have more committee assignments coming with your input here shortly. So get ready to do lots more work. So we appreciate it. That concludes the mayor's report, and we'll turn it over to the time for the city manager.
No item to report, Your Honor.
Great, thank you very much. That'll take us to the call to the public. At the call to the public, this is the opportunity for you to approach your city council. As you know, we have a little timer up here. We'll give you 3 minutes. It'll beep when you have about 15 to 20 seconds left. It'll move from green to yellow. Just so you know, because it's not agendized, we don't have the opportunity to respond back to those comments and questions you may have, but it is an opportunity in which we really do want to hear from you, so I encourage you to do so, after which we'll either get with you afterwards or we'll get staff with you and we'll get those issues resolved. So if I can go with the 3 speaker cards that I currently have, we'll start with those, and then anybody who'd like to approach us afterwards. Let's start with Eric Parton. Did I pronounce that right, Eric? So if you please come up to the podium here and tell us what's on your mind.
If you can have mercy on me as far as presentation skills, there's a quote.
Would you move the microphone a little closer to you? I apologize.
There's a quote, a voice crying out in the wilderness. And from what I hear from Steve Stahl, that I'm the only voice that had called the police department with my concerns about the front page news that's going out. I mean, and actually, this is not just for Maricopa. You know, we live in a digital age where I'm heavily in the networking. I've got worldwide on current events, connected to the Bible. And so with that said, I'm seeing news articles in other states. So this is not a Maricopa issue. This is something that is actually worldwide, because we live in an integrated system where everybody around the world is not only looking at America, but they're seeing our response to the things that we do. I find it strange and odd that I'm the only one that made a phone call, but I'll accept that and I'll move forward. As a community, here's my situation. The reason why this is personally affecting me, not only because I'm a homeowner in the Cobblestone community, but also Jackie, 4 years old, and Michael, 9 years old, in 4th grade. Michael and Jackie, they come and they play in front of my house with my children. The adults didn't come to me and tell me what happened. I had the neighbors' kids tell my neighbors' kids, and they come and tell me. They go over by Michael, and he says, "My dad's dead." You know, and so as a community and as a group of people, I'm the only one that makes a phone call that's concerned about this. All I'm doing is I'm only asking for help. Give me some direction on where to go. Steve Stahl has been very helpful, and the other person, I'm not sure his name, but they've been very helpful on giving me some direction in the questions that I have. But I do ask you, elected officials, why aren't you on the front page concerning this? Why is it about what happened, and that you guys are giving it to somebody else, and you're not you passing the buck and not taking the responsibility yourselves to say something to the community? I go to HOA where I pay money, and they tell me, "Oh, basically we do maintenance. We're not involved in the community." So here's my example. I've got my next door neighbor over here saying, "Oh, we're watching a movie and we're talking about what happened with the kids that told my kids." I got a guy across the street, both the husband and the wife. They're saying, "What's the community? What can we do in the community, right? What is HOA doing about it?" And then he goes, "You know what? The reason why I'm here, and I'm here because God. This is an ordained appointment right now for us to hear about peace and about truth." Right? And that the neighbor across the street says, "Hey, I got an idea when you left to go pick up the kids. City council." So then I call the city council. "Oh, there's a meeting tonight." Wow, here I am. So I got I'm done. So my cry goes out to the kids and what we could do for them.
Thank you, Eric. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming tonight.
And I hope you guys do something about it.
Thank you.
And the community too.
Well, next one would be, I have Valkyrie Thee and Matthew McCarthy. Did I pronounce those right? If I didn't, I apologize. Come on up and tell me how it's pronounced.
Valerie Thier.
Valerie Thier.
We're here tonight to address the ban of bikes and scooters at the Copper Sky Skate Park. We brought with a list of 86 names of kids who ride bikes or scooters that have nowhere to go now, and parents who have nowhere safe for their kids to go and hang out, somewhere monitored. You know, the cops come through regularly and check on us, which is awesome. We need that in a community. These kids, they rely on that skate park. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them are even sponsored. And now they have nowhere to go, nowhere in the town to go to just be safe and have fun. We all hang out. We don't cause many problems. I've only been here for a couple months, but it's a very well put together community. And that place was awesome for the kids. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, it's because the bikes are destroying it and scooters, they mess things up. But what happens when they have that taken away from them? They're gonna go around the city, and then our city is gonna get torn up. I mean, things at the skate park, it's built sturdy. It's meant to be grinded on and hit on with boards and bikes, and these kids, they could be out doing drugs. They could be out causing a whole bunch of trouble, and instead we all choose to just gather in one place and be safe and have fun and be passionate about something other than partying and causing trouble. I just think we need to take the ban away. They don't want much more than that. They don't want to go there, and they're not asking lift tobacco or anything from the premises. That's ridiculous. They're just saying, let us hang out. Let us be kids. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And before I call up the next one, just to give you a quick update there, Valerie, I know that I brought up this issue with the city manager here almost 2 weeks ago, and so we are working on something as we speak. So thank you very much for being here and telling us your concerns. But just so you know, take comfort in the fact we are working towards a resolution. So thank you. Next one is Donna Pierce from Friends of the Library. Donna, would you come on up?
Hello, I hope you can hear me. I'm a teacher, so I should have a loud voice. Mayor Price and City Council, I'm here tonight. My name is Lee Pierce, and I am the chairman of the Friends of the Library. And we just want to, I'm representing the Friends. We want to wish you congratulations on some of you are back again, and those of you who are new on your offices, and we hope we have another great year here in Maricopa. And Maricopa is such a unique city, one of the reasons I love living here. And a lot of you are new. I've spoken before the city council before, and you're all brand new, at least to me. And I just want to remind you who the Friends of the Library are. I do have some little pamphlets for all of you, so I don't know who to give these to, but
Just give them to the end here.
Okay.
Pass them down.
they just explain a little bit about the Friends of the Library, and I didn't know if you guys realized in the history of Maricopa, and we love our history here in Maricopa, actually probably along with maybe one other organization, we are the oldest organization in the city of Maricopa. Started way back a long time ago. The farm families realized 1,500 people here in Maricopa, they needed a library. And so at one time, the unique thing about the Friends is the Friends of the Library were the library. They're the ones that managed it, they took care of it. They found the post office had shelves in the library you could check out there. The old mercantile market, they had shelves. Then through the goodness of everyone who lived here, they all donated land. They donated the double-wide Quonset hut, now where the VFW Lodge is, and actually put the old library together. And then in 2009, we got a new library built, of which we're very, very pleased about. We had a lot to do with that. I actually got to be part of the groundbreaking ceremony, so that was a lot of fun. And I just kind of want to let you guys know how important the library is. And I don't know how many people know this. I know some of you know this. But in the month of October, more people walked through the doors of the library than walked through the doors of Copper Sky. And before I leave, I just want to leave you with one little tidbit of information. There is a rubric put together by the National Library Societies that decide how big a library should be for the city. And there should be 1 square foot for every person who lives in the city. Right now, our library is just a little bit over 8,000 square feet, which would service a community of 8,000 people. So I just kind of want you to keep in mind that we should actually have a library about the size of Copper Sky for our city. So just wanted to drop that information on you and wish you a good year, and I'm happy to see you all. Okay,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
We appreciate it. That concludes my speaker cards. Does anyone else like to approach the podium and address the council at this time?
Mr. Mayor and Council, belated Happy New Year, because I haven't seen most of you since then. I am here tonight. I would like to thank you, the mayor, and the council members that were here last year, and council members who are no longer here that were here, and Chief Stahl, for the hard work you guys put into bringing the city of Maricopa into compliance with the Arizona revised statutes as far as the lockers out here, the policies in the park. I was a grain of sand in your shoes getting to this point, and I forgot to come back and thank you. So, I had something else to add, but in lieu of current events, I'm going to yield to better judgment. So we'll talk later.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anyone else this time? Rachel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to everyone. Just wanted to remind all of you, as well as our community members, February 21st from 9 a.m. to noon at Maricopa High School is going to be the Families First Ready for Life Fashion Focus Workshop, and that's where they will be discussing the upcoming fashion show and talent show for the youth. And I just wanted to ask you to please save that date. And again, inviting all community members and small business owners or volunteers who want to come forth and participate in this process. I was at the after-school program today, and they're practicing their modeling moves. I made a couple moves. But I just wanted to please ask you if you could attend and be a part of this great community event. It would be awesome. It's going to be a lot bigger than it was last year, and the youth are really, really excited about it. And if you could, please attend. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pardon me? Oh, Maricopa High School? Yes, thank you.
Great. Anyone else at this time? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public. We appreciate all those who approached and had something to say. We appreciate it, and we'll get right on those things as quickly as we possibly can. That takes us to item 7, the minutes. We have minutes for 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. And that takes us to the Section 8, which is public hearings. We have 2 public hearings at this time. PH 15-01. The Mayor and City Council shall hear public comment regarding the use of FY15 Community Development Block Grants, CDBG funds, and FY15 State Special Projects, SSP funds. SSP is competitive, whereas CDBG is set amount provided to the community and allocated based on Central Arizona Association of Government Regional Council method of distribution. Both grants are submitted to the Arizona Department of Housing and are awarded based on eligibility and funding availability. I'll turn the time over to Mary, after which, if anyone wishes to speak on this item and this item only, you may approach the podium and do so.
Council, tonight is the second required Community Development Block Grant public hearing. Projects up for consideration that will be presented through a resolution at a future council meeting include streetlights for the Heritage District, Maricopa Domestic Water Improvement District Phase 2 Southside Water System Improvement. The third one is identifying, acquiring, and demolishing potential properties in the Heritage District. And the fourth project up for consideration is identifying homes that are in need of repair in the Heritage District and then contracting those services with another entity.
Thank you, Mary. Does anyone wish to approach the council at this time on this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on item 8.1 and open the public hearing on item 8.2. This is PH 15-02. The mayor and city council shall hear public comment on a conditional use permit, CUP case number 14-03, Tortosa HOA office. At this time, we'll open it up to public comment. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time, and that will finish out our public hearings. And that moves us on to item 9, the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on these 2 items? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And that'll take us to the regular agenda. This will take us to item 10.1. The mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on appointing 7 citizens to the nonprofit funding committee. I believe that the council has received 7 applications and 7 only, so that takes us to the full amount. Typically, it would be simplistic to move the slate, but in this case, as this is a standing committee, they are coterminous with the terms of the individual council members. So we need to each pick an individual that we wish to nominate, and that will move us forward. You should have the list in front of you, council members, and if there's no objection, I'll just start on one end and move to center, and I will go last. So we'll start with Councilmember Manfredi.
For the nonprofit committee applicants, I'd pick Mary Kimball.
Okay, Mary?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pick Greg Campbell.
Greg?
Mr. Mayor, I'll pick Joey Ashley Gibbs.
Joey Ashley Gibbs. Mr. Kimball?
Mr. Mayor, I'll take Donna Gardner as my appointment, please.
Donna? Mr. Waden?
Mr. Mayor, I'll take Christine Foster as my candidate.
Christine Fuller?
Sorry, Fuller.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Mayor, I select Randy Doe.
Randy Doe? And then I will take Joy Bentley. So that should complete the process. Thank you very much, council. I believe we need a motion to approve them collectively now. So can I have a motion to approve the collected recommendations? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. That'll take us to item 10.2. This one is, before we move into anything, I'm going to preface this, but before we go here, the mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on appointing 7 citizens to fill the age-friendly advisory committee. Later in today's agenda, we will possibly codify this, and if that is the case, then this will become a standing committee as well, and so this will also be coterminous. However, I do want Reverend Jackson to come up and talk to us just briefly about kind of the things that he is looking to put together in this before we move towards selection.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and City Council. Just to remind you, our age-friendly Maricopa, the committee is really surrounding the goal of us to really engage people 60 years older and plus, and in order to decrease social isolation as well as to increase access to services and social opportunities and recreation. And so this 7-member committee, we're really looking for it to be a diverse committee in terms of age. We want it to be intergenerational, so there would be youth as well as older individuals. So it's not just a group of individuals that are 60 plus, but younger would be good. They would represent faith community, businesses, veterans, nonprofit agencies, education, or whatever. And so that's what we're looking to do. And with this committee, they would be providing insight and advice relative to vision, strategy, and implementation.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now, council, as you see on your list, up till today, we had 7 members. This afternoon or today, we received 2 additional applications, making the total 9. So I kind of leave it up to you as to how you'd like to proceed. I know that there is a possible sentiment that we postpone this and table this until the following meeting, simply based on the fact that you might want additional time to discuss those additional members, get to know them, so that you can make an educated decision. If you are ready to go, then whatever the pleasure of the council is. So I would leave that in your hands. Council, what would you like to do at this time?
Mr. Mayor, as one of these candidates is my candidate, so I hate to forgo this. I mean, if people were interested in supporting this committee, they should have encouraged applicants to come forward.
Okay. So we have basically a movement to continue on. What else? Yes, Councilwoman Chapados.
Mr. Mayor, although I agree with the Vice Mayor, not knowing that we were going to have additional candidates, usually I would have liked the option to at least talk to the people that I have not had a chance to work with or meet yet to find their interest, but I also have at least one member on here who applied at my request, so I'm
Item 10.3, the mayor and city council to discuss the possible take action to approve the conditional use permit for the Tortosa HOA office.
Council members. For the record, my name is Ryan Wozniak. I'm a planner with the city of Maricopa. This is your first time seeing me, so thank you for this honor. I am presenting Tortosa HOA office management case. It's a conditional use permit 1403. It's a request by Christy Hasashaki of Tortosa HOA Management. She's requesting approval of the HOA office operations to operate within a single-family home in the Tortosa Northwest community. The location is intended to be temporary. This slide gives an overview of that northwest portion of the Tortosa community. It is, as you see, surrounded by vacant properties. The home sits on the corner. Two adjacent lots next to it are serving as the off-street parking. As part of their application, they noted that they're meeting ADA requirements through ADA accessible route and ADA parking. They've presented pictures of the home. They seem to keep it well maintained. The nature of the business is the HOA office employs 4 people to help operations. It's operated Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They have, on pretty much regular occasion, a small committee meetings held for social events. And then on a rare occasion, gatherings occur in the rear yard. On-site improvements are part of the conditions of approval. We want to make sure that they're satisfying all portions of the code, building code, fire code, and then through the zoning code, we're looking to mitigate those visual impacts of the parking within a residential setting by requiring some landscape screening, mitigate the dust of the parking lot if required. Then the HOA will be held to a development timeline that they worked with us to create. This is helping them to ensure the city that this is going to be a temporary situation that has a 24-month timeline that will have key dates to help them move through the rezoning process and the development review permit process. All of those will be going through the city processes for approval. And I'd also like to make an additional point that we have not seen any comment from the community, neither for or against this proposal. With that, I'll leave you with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of approval of CUP 1403 with those stipulated conditions of approval. And there was a voice of support, 5-0 carried the vote. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Council questions at this time? Yes, Councilwoman Chapados.
Ryan, just a construction question. Who is responsible for restoring the property back to resident standards, particularly with regard to the parking and the dust mitigation, if the property is sold and becomes a regular residence, live-in residence?
Mayor Price, Councilmember Chapados, there is a lease agreement, and for details, I will look to the applicant to see if she can shed any light on that.
Good evening. To restore the parking lot to its original state, that would be the association's cost.
Okay. So the management company or the tenant would be able to pass those assignments and that restoration onto the homeowners association?
That would be the association, yes.
Okay. Christy, thank you for doing this. I can appreciate living in a portfolio community as opposed to, or I'm sorry, an on-site community as opposed to portfolio. I think it makes a very positive difference for residences to have that kind of access to their management team. I see an increase in social activities, in just the image of your community as a whole. And I got to tell you, Tortosa is one of the premier communities in Maricopa that engages your residents. So thank you for bringing this forward. I also see that you've got a very aggressive schedule to build your own building. Happy to see more communities having that option for their homeowners here in Maricopa. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Councilmember Wade.
This question is for Councilmember Capitals. I'm not quite sure I understood your question and whether or not the question was answered, because what, just restoring the outside or restoring the property itself to be livable?
Well, it's livable right now, is my understanding. They have to make some adjustments because of the fire code and building code. But if the house becomes a, residential home again, they're going to have to take up the parking lot. They may have to remove some of the screening. And I was just wondering whose responsibility that is. She did answer it. It would be a responsibility of the association.
So it just would be the exterior. There wouldn't be any interior requirements for its construction?
Unless they made any adjustments to the office space, but that would be something I'm sure that they deal with the owner, because you're a tenant right now, correct?
We are a tenant, yes.
Yeah. They could work that out with the homeowner.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, I would accept a motion, please.
The CUP 14-03.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 10.4, Mayor's...
The city manager or the city council. So the procedure is so that they would submit a fee waiver request form, and that needs to be 60 days in advance. They need to make sure that the facility that they wish to use is available, so they have to, call and reserve the facility and make sure that it's available. Complete the special event permit if required, and then it'll go through an initial staff review, and if there's anything missing or anything additional that we need, we will go ahead and go from there and then place it on the next PRL agenda. And then the findings will be presented to the city council for consideration. So the parameters of the fee waiver request are that the request is only considered for programs and events that are open to the general public. The participants must receive some intrinsic cultural, educational, recreational, or entertainment value. There needs to be something there that this community is getting out of this event. It's limited to one program or event within a 12-month period, and that nonprofit funding program participants are not eligible for additional fee waivers. So basically, our key goals and factors are to ensure the city's hard costs are covered, including, as I mentioned, staff and material costs, that the city receives some type of benefit. This could be marketing, special event, that that we're basically being represented on their flyers, that our logo's on there, that it's known that we are sponsoring the event, and that we have some kind of participation. If it's something where they're having booths or vendors, that we are provided a table or a place to put our information. And then, of course, a tracking process and a formal approval process. So with that, before you have all the forms and the actual policy, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to field those.
Council, questions? Yes, Councilwoman Smith.
I noticed that the application specifically states that is for nonprofits only. So am I interpreting that the policy should also state that it's for nonprofits only? I feel like that would make it clear because the policy is where they're going to go to first.
Yes.
And somewhere in that policy it should state for nonprofits.
Yes.
Am I interpreting that?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
So
I
I'd
will
like
make sure
to
we
have
add that.
added. Okay. And then second is on the application, the pre-program financial affidavit. What is that exactly? That wasn't included, so I wasn't sure exactly what the application was asking for.
I'm sorry, which one are you?
It's the pre-program financial
Oh,
affidavit.
basically so that they need to give us, this is what our anticipated revenues are. We need a budget, essentially.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. So, and then the last thing is under Procedures 5, to me, it reads as though everything will come before City Council, and in your presentation, it says only as needed. Should we put a parameter in there that says when it is going to cross a line? Or do you know what that line is?
And typically, if it is something that's super high or out of the ordinary or not just a basic, one-time small little event, I usually seek the city manager's I ask for his opinion, and he usually lets me know whether or not it needs to come before city council. But if there is a specific parameter, or if you feel like you need something specific in there, we can add that, or if you're comfortable with that decision-making process,
I'm always fine with the city manager, but I feel like it would be helpful if a reader had an idea of when that line would be crossed. And so I had asked in a question in an email what we saw as the low end and what we saw as the high end request, so that I could decide where is that line.
And I apologize,
That's
I did
okay.
send that out to you, but
That's
it was
okay.
pretty close to the council
That's
meeting.
all right, don't worry about it.
But basically, what we've seen in the city's past, and kind of what's been a basic, the low end, I think the lowest request that we've received is $120, and the highest so far has been a request for just under $4,000.
Yeah, Peg has an idea, I think.
Councilman Chapados.
What if we amended item number 5 to say the findings may also be presented to city council? Because I think based on our history, you've had the gamut of proposals and requests, and I'd rather leave discretion to you and city manager as to what comes before us rather than quantifying it right now.
That'd be fine. I think just so that they know that they may come before city council, they may not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yes, Councilman Manfredi.
My question for it is, under program parameters number 4, request for free waivers for an individual group or organization is limited to one program or event within a 12-month period. Is there a reason?
So that we're not inundated with several requests from the same organization.
Well, my thinking would be an organization just like Little League, and I bring that up because Little League. I know that they're actually asking for a couple things right now. And is there a way that we can make it instead of just one, maybe 2?
That is, you're up to you.
So there wouldn't be any issue with it. It's,
Nope.
So you could say not more than twice in a 12-month period, something like that. Yes, Councilman
I'd
Chapados.
like to qualify if we're going to do that by the same applicant for the same type of an event. Because if we just say only 2, you could have 2 very different events coming before the committee and staff.
I'd agree with that.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, Beth?
Yes, quantify that if we change it from 1 event to 2, make it from the same applicant for the exact same type of an event, so it's a multi-date event as opposed to 2 separate events. I do something in the spring, something in the fall. You know, you could technically ask for both of them to be waived.
actually, that's what I was kind of thinking, that they would be able to do one in the spring and one in the fall, because there's sports organizations like Little League that have 2 different seasons. So they would have 2 different things like sign-ins or tryouts and things like that. So they have a lot of events, so they would actually be able to have one for each of their seasons. Something like that.
That's if they get to do the events for free all the time. I mean, at
Right.
some point, they're going to have to pay to rent the space. You know?
Right, but there's a lot of organizations that pay a lot to rent a lot of times. And so giving them the option to have 2 of them for free, where, just as an example with the Little League, it would be the hit, pitch, run, and their Challenger Jamboree. When the Challenger Jamboree is where they do Little League and no one's denied, people in wheelchairs play, everybody plays. So we would be part of that as a city.
So is that going against what Councilmember Chapados said, or is that along the
believe
lines
so.
of what she said?
I believe so.
Yes, Councilman Chapados.
The other thing, I think we need to make the distinction that based on the proposed policy, there is no such thing as a totally free event, unless there's compelling reasons that we would waive any hard costs. But even if it's one organization presenting multiple facets of a consistent theme, I mean, I would be comfortable with 2, but there again, I will leave it to the discretion of staff, PRL committee, and the city manager to make those distinctions as to, is this, I don't want people creating 2 separate proposals just to get around that. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I want to recognize Diane Morrow, the chair of the PRL, and also Doreen Tavalt. Having attended several PRL committee meetings over the past few months, these guys do a great job of vetting these things, asking the hard questions, making the applicants accountable. They're just very thorough in their debate, in their analysis of things, and the recommendations that they've made have been very, very good.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Smith.
When working with the Relay for Life Committee, in transferring from chairman to chairman, I advise them to consider the entire year and what is it that they would expect or ask of the city. Expecting is a hard word. Ask of the city, and to put that into one proposal. And I'm actually wondering if one request per year actually makes more sense in thinking about the whole year, so that the Parks, Rec, and Library Committee can consider what is the value for all that a particular nonprofit is asking for the entire year. If that makes it a bigger picture, rather than one event comes and then, oops, here's a second event, and we're considering both and not realizing what the total value is. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I advise Parks and Rec and Library, Relay for Life to do it, is in one vision. What do you want to ask for the entire year?
Makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense, and what they could do is they could do one request, but have both of the events that they're interested in having waived in the same request in the beginning of the year. That makes sense. But as long as they're able to at least request 2 separate events with the one request.
Councilman Chapels.
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Smith, there's also another option that I don't want to alarm the Nonprofit Funding Evaluation Committee or Mary, but a lot of these groups don't apply for the nonprofit funding grant, which could offset a lot of the things that we're requesting to be waived. I just think that if we encourage our nonprofits to avail themselves of every resource available, it improves not only the quality of the event, but it helps us be good stewards of the public's tax dollars by spreading this money back into events that are directly going to benefit the community. So I'd like to encourage that as well.
I have a few questions based on the discussion here that's ensued. The first question I would have is, well, the first thing I would recommend to the council is, I guess I'm not a big fan of the 60-day requirement. I think 60 days is too onerous. I mean, when you're absolutely right about if you can have the foresight, because you're an organized agency, to think a year ahead, then more power to you. It's easier for us. It's easier for PRL. It's easier for everybody. But the reality is that a lot of folks, especially in this, since you've been tracking it, I'd be interested to know how many of those thought, a year out. I mean, most of those don't happen that way. In fact, it's because of oftentimes the reaction to something that's happened, somebody in the community that's been injured or something to that effect where they're trying to raise money or something along those lines. So I think that 60 days is too onerous. However, there is a staff time component as well to get through these things. But I would certainly propose no longer than 30 days. That's my opinion on that. Secondly, though, I guess I have another question that is, and I apologize, Christy, it's really not a fair one to you, and so I apologize, but I guess one of the things that I'm always cautious of is that, when we put a policy in place like this, we do this for legal reasons because we want to treat everybody fairly. Certainly, we have a park that is an astronomical consumer of dollars from the general fund, and although it by far has been the crown jewel in our cap, it really does, we have to recover costs. And so you talked about those hard costs, et cetera. But at the same time, there's always a fine line between what happens when we put in a policy and now it becomes another layer of bureaucracy. And the question that I have for you is, of those that you've been tracking, if you had to guesstimate, what would you say that based on this policy, how many of those, based on time frames, what is required of them, would have been able to have accomplished what they did based on their ask, having to have gone through this process? Because I worry about the fact that they always have to be 501Cs. I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that the IRS is 2 years behind on 501C3s, I mean, so do we take into credit that they've applied already or not? Do they have to use somebody else or not? And so I do want to give you a chance to answer here, but I think there's a lot of things that when we look at this, do they have to then make sure that the city always is covered as the additional liable, on their insurance policy? That's obviously one of the things we want, but in the past we've done some waivers on things, and then what is the limits on those types of things? So again, if you had to take this policy as it's written now and apply it to those that have asked in the past year, where would we stand?
Honorable Mayor, everyone that has made a request since I've been here has been covered either by has partnered with a nonprofit or has met this standard. to go back to your previous issue as far as the 60 days, we put the 60 days because it gives us time to get all the information that we need. It gives, if they need, to go through the special event permit process, if they have an alcohol permit or whatever it might be, so that we need to get it on the PRL agenda in time for their decision and action. And then if it needs to come to council, we need to make sure that we have enough time for it to go through all the channels that are necessary. So that's where the 60 days came from. We were noticing that a lot of these were coming in with not in that time frame, and we were having a lot of issues trying to make sure that they were getting onto the agenda. There were a few last minute instances where I had to ask the city clerk to to get these on the agenda as it was an emergency, so that they had the opportunity to present their program to the PRL. So that's where to give you some background as to where that 60 days came from. But other than that, everyone that we've approved and tracked have, for the most part, would have fit into that window. And I mean, obviously, like I had mentioned, there were some issues where we had asked to make a special circumstance to add them to the agenda. But for the most part, it's been able to get through the proper channels in time.
Thank you very much for that answer. I guess the follow-on question I'd have then is, again, as it pertains to some of the things that you just mentioned, which is that, a lot of these organizations don't, but the very nature that they're having a quote-unquote emergency, having to get it on the agenda, is because it was last minute. Now, obviously, we want to hold some accountability to these organizations. If we are, doing our part, then we're asking them to do their part, right? Which is, hey, we have a time limit. But to the extent in which it doesn't seem like there's any exceptions to the rule, and I know that that's a legally difficult issue. That's why you have a policy. But I always, as an English major, the rules are not always applicable in every situation, and I worry about the case-by-case basis, and we don't want to swing that way so far that everybody's the case-by-case basis, but nor do we want to make it so locked down and tight that nobody can ever fit, and that's the whole purpose of having a taxpayer, paid for facility, is that we're the controllers of this so that we can make these exceptions, and so I'm very careful in the treading here, and I think that. Again, I'm wondering if, in the spirit of compromise, I understand the need for the 60 days when there's a special event permit, but when there's not a special event permit needed, I still think that beyond 30 is just too much to ask for most people. Councilman Chappos.
Christy, for our edification, what events would be exempt from having to submit a special event application?
It's like the size, if it's a small event, if it's like more of a larger, big regional event where they're expecting, thousands of people, if they're having alcohol, that would require a special event permit, things like that. If it's a smaller scaled event that isn't, there's no alcohol, they're expecting, like 200 or less people, that kind of thing is when it's a smaller scale event.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, having been in the special event business, I was actually going to request that we extend it to 90 to 120 days. Just because if it's an event that is going to be established as a repeat event, people know well enough in advance for planning. The other thing that concerns me, I agree that we should provide a provision for an exception, but you've got public safety concerns, you've got staffing concerns. What happens if two entities are planning something and they wait till the last minute and submit it? Now you've got a competition for space. I think as much advance notices as possible, just so the staff, particularly public safety and Parks and Rec, can weigh in on, is it feasible? I mean, it may be a small group for 200 people, but if you've got a family picnic that they were just counting on driving up to the Big Ramada and taking it over, or there's something going on at Desert Cedars next door, don't worry about parking on the streets, you can park in Copper Sky. There's a lot of factors that we may not know or be able to control. So I would like to at least keep it at 60 days, and under no circumstances a submittal would be reviewed if it's less than 30 days. The other instance that comes up occasionally, especially in the fall around holidays, PRL is unable to meet, or they have other things that they do. They've been judges consistently. If they have to postpone a meeting, they may not be able to get to that agenda item. And I think based on what I've seen in their vetting of the process, they're going to need that time. The other thing, too, is if they submit a proposal to you, you can preliminary review it and give the applicant time to prepare answers to any questions that you see that you know PRL is going to ask about. I also had another couple of questions on the application itself. I would actually like us to include a provision for them to quantify what kind of sponsorship, if it's going to be cash or in-kind. I think it's important for us to be able to put a dollar value on the amount of dollars that are waived, but also if they're offering an in-kind sponsorship, such as advertising or being able to disseminate product or information or whatever, they need to quantify that and put a value on there. I would also like to know what's their attendance projection at peak times, because just saying I'm expecting 500 people, but we know it's not going to be all at once, I think that's an important concern for public safety to review as well as Parks and Rec. The other thing I would like to see us add to the application is a checkbox that a special event permit was required and was received, just so you know you have consistency between one form and another. I think that's my basic questions for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Kimball.
Christie, I had a question. So when somebody applies for a special event permit, does that go through every department?
There is like a committee that's part of that, public safety, so police, fire, public works, or engineering, obviously community services, and then anyone else, depending on what the event is, if anyone else needs to be included. But it goes through those channels, and then we have a meeting and address any concerns or issues, anything that seems to be missing from the application. If their traffic control plan isn't up to par, or if fire is concerned, with the tent that they're whatever it may be, if there's issues or concerns, that's when they're addressed, and then we approach the applicant and let them know what those comments are, so that they can address those.
And so then the special events come to council and usually on consent for us to approve. And
Yes.
then, so I would say that, in my personal opinion, that would be the only thing from a fee waiver standpoint that would come to council. I don't think that all fee waiver proposals, I think that staff is more than capable of accepting or declining those at a staff level, and they shouldn't all come to council. That being said, I think that the special event requests, along with the fee waiver, should be 60 days and anything else 30. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Wade.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Christie, hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Question, is there ever a period or an event that doesn't require liability insurance?
No, they all require liability insurance, and they have to name the city as insured.
Okay, because, I just noticed that when you talk about direct costs and indirect costs, I think it'd probably be a good idea to add liability insurance in the direct costs, because it says such as, and I think that would be included in that,
Okay.
in the waiver, in the policy. The other place that I noticed that could probably use that would be in the approval. It doesn't really talk about liability insurance at all, whether or not it's been received or been submitted at all. I didn't see anything in there. Maybe I missed it.
Okay. Yeah, on the approval form, it does say proof of insurance, but I can add it to the other form as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Council, other questions, concerns, discussion on this particular item? Yes.
Council as a whole, what did we decide on the multiple events? I don't know if we came to consensus on that. So in order for somebody to make a motion, they would have to have consensus, I think.
Just change to up to 2, that's all. So they can have up to 2.
I think Councilmember Smith's suggestion is marriage. You want to repeat? Why don't you repeat that? It's been so long ago. It was almost 60 days ago.
So the direction that I gave Relay for Life was to consider your whole year. And like you said, Mayor, when you have an organized nonprofit, which a lot of the requests that come forward are through an organized, you can envision your year and you can put it all into one proposal. And we never know what's going to come forward and what's important to our community. So I'm not really in favor of limiting how many events. I really like the idea of one proposal in a 12-month period that really lays out what the plan is for that nonprofit in their request for use of the facilities.
But does that open up, though, the door? I mean, just like we talked about earlier, I mean, the idea is that you do have to pay for this facility, right? So if I'm trying to say, I'm an organized group and I'm only getting one shot at this and I don't know what's coming up, so I'm going to lay out 50 things in this proposal because I get one proposal per year, right? I'm under what you just said right there. Is the idea the one proposal, or is the idea more along the lines that you get only 1 or 2 times a year to be utilizing it with some sort of a waiver?
In thinking of how we intended it to be used for Relay for Life, it was meant to say, we're bringing this service, if you will, to the community. It has a lot of value because it brings awareness to cancer. It allows people to come out and participate in a major a major event. So the idea is not to take advantage of the city. However, I can see how it could be misused. But the idea is just to stop the influx of applications if there should be another event and another event. See what I'm saying? Is that you're minimizing how much effort is placed on the Parks Rec Library Committee, how much is placed on the staff, but not to abuse or overuse it. But I understand your concern.
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember, so can I get a little bit of clarification? So what you're saying is, so then what happens, I guess, with an organization that didn't submit something for the fiscal year or the calendar year, and something comes up and they want to host an event or a fundraiser or do something? Are they still able to submit?
In that particular case, I really like what Councilmember Kimball said, in that it doesn't eliminate, it's not based on like a fiscal year, like you have to submit it at the beginning of January. It's based on when you want to submit your application, and that 12-month period is how I interpreted the policy. But as Councilmember Kimball said, if it requires an event permit, then it should be the 60-day maximum limit in terms of you can't apply for anything within that 60-day window. And if it doesn't require an event permit, then the 30-day window would apply.
Okay.
Does that help? That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
So, we've had a lot of discussion on this item.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to come to some sort of a consensus, at least on a listing of what we're hearing here, so that we can make a motion that deals with all those with some sort of conciseness. Otherwise, this is going to be a nightmare for staff to go back and have to figure out where the discussion actually ended up later on with the recordings. Councilwoman Chapados.
Just for clarification, even if it's a small event that doesn't require a lot of city facilities or personnel, is that typically something that would just be administratively approved and not even go before PRL? Or do you try and take everything before PRL?
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Chapados, the way the policy is written is that everything would go to PRL.
So would 30 days work?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, Vice Mayor.
Honorable Mayors and Council, just one comment. I think that there are often, there can be a situation where an event needs to occur within a very short window. And so in the implementation of this policy, I would certainly want the latitude to allow what I believe is consistent with your direction and desire for this community, to allow that type of event to occur. One that comes to mind is a very quickly put together baseball tournament where it was for a specific reason that I believe was consistent with the values that you share. And so I made efforts to not waive, but to lower some of the fees in that case. And I would want the same latitude in this, if this policy is approved.
And that's that exception to the rule I was trying to mention. So, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were mentioning something.
Well, based on what I've heard, it seems that Councilmember Kimball's he didn't put it in a motion, but his forming a motion makes sense. Why don't you put that in a motion, what you were saying?
Well,
We need all the consensus.
yeah, before we go to a motion, though, I think what we need to do is we need to go through and touch on these things that we've addressed and find out, do we agree with them in majority to move forward with a motion?
We have a lot of things to put together.
Exactly. So I think the first thing that I wanted to touch on was the thing I think we all agreed on was, at least I thought so. Councilwoman Chapados, you had a bunch of comments of things you'd like to see added to the stuff. Did anybody have any issues with that?
No.
Okay, I didn't either.
I have one other question, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, for Christine. You came before us, the first thing you said is that oftentimes that you're in a position where you have to make a decision about whether or not you need to waive a fee or what have you for an organization. And you're proposing this as a solution to that. I know it's our decision, and I know it's something that we're doing on behalf of you, but what were you looking for as a department in support of what you're trying to do to make things run smoother for your department?
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Wade, essentially what I was looking for is something that was going to be a consistent policy so that when someone came forward and, we're doing the same thing for everybody, that it's a policy in place, that it's clearly stated, there's an application form, there's an approval process, so that it is consistent. And so it doesn't look like, oh, well, we gave this to so-and-so, or we gave this to, so-and-so, but we didn't do it for them. Well, why? And so that we had something in place that that outlined very specifically enough so that it was a fair and consistent way of handling these cases. And I don't know what happened over the last 6 months, but it's like one thing after another, and they're going to PRL and just tons and tons and tons of these requests. So it was very obvious that we needed some kind of policy. Whether it's this policy or if you all see something that's a little bit maybe less rigid or more open, or something that does, as the city manager mentioned, give us that latitude to make these adjustments or approvals as needed, because there have been a couple that have come up, and Mr. Rose has sent me an email saying, hey, this has been approved. I have, I understand this is this program, and that go ahead and allow for this X, Y, and Z, whatever that might be. So while yes, that is important, and there are some of those cases that, it's a fundraiser that's put together or something that's, come together, and it doesn't necessarily require a special event permit that needs to go to the council, that we can, within 30 days, make a decision within the department or, with the direction of PRL.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so where we're at then is, let's start and work backwards. So the first thing is that the Chapados comments, as far as just the additional things she'd like to see added, we were all okay with that, yes? Okay.
They will be incorporated.
Incorporated, right, okay. So the second thing was the latitude that the city manager talked about, right, which is those special exceptions, the little things that happen on a spur of notice. We're okay with that. Okay, so those two are in. The two things that we seem to still be a little hedging on, and we can take them in any order, which is basically the CUP. So 60 days, 30 days, all 30 days, all 60 days, all 190 days.
90 days.
Where did we, exactly, that's why I said 190. 120. Stop poking me. All right, so where is your comfort level? I mean, this can be variances here, but.
I believe what Councilman Kimball said was 60 with a CUP and then 30 without.
30
Okay.
without, yeah.
Councilman Chapados?
Yeah, I guess we could just modify the language to say as soon as possible, but 60 days is the preferred, 30 days is the absolute minimum?
Yeah.
Unless there's an exception?
Okay, you're okay with that?
With that.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that as long as Christie's okay with that because of the 30-day. I mean, I love the flexibility. I'm huge on the flexibility. But I've been to probably 6 of the Parks and Recreation where all these have come at the last minute. And I just want to make sure, is it going to be doable to process them all in the 30 days? Not at one time, but with the Parks and Rec and Library Committee, and if necessary, City Council.
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Smith, I think as long as it's the ones that aren't requiring a permit that need to come before council for all of that approval, then yes, we can more than likely make that happen.
Okay, so.
I do.
So to that end then,
Can you tell? No.
So to that end, is an applicant notified at the beginning that they're going to need a 60-day window instead of a 30-day window? How do they find out? I mean, you're right. If I'm a large organization and I'm bringing in a music festival, there's a lot that goes into it. But like you said, I mean, let's say I'm in between. I'm a 500-person event. You know, I mean, I don't know whether that's going to need the committee, the CUP committee, and it's going to go to council. I just, you know, so this is something new to me, to the group. I mean, are they going to be notified right away saying, hey, this is not enough time? How do they gauge that?
Honorable Mayor, it really depends on when they approach us. I mean, if it is one of these events that they've never done it before, and it's, you know, maybe they didn't even realize they needed a special event permit until they called to reserve the facility, and that's when they were made aware of it. So in some cases, we might not, depending on when they come forward to the city making a request or trying to reserve a facility, they might be within that 60-day window, or that might have lapsed, just depending on how new to the process they might be, if they've never made a request like this, if maybe they're you know, hosting a family reunion that could potentially be 500 people, but they didn't, and they want to have alcohol and things like that, but they thought maybe all they had to do was call and reserve the facility. They might not realize you have to get an alcohol permit, you know, things like that. So it just really depends on when the request comes forward.
I mean, definitely we will be requiring something that's never been required before in the city. So there's a learning curve that goes into it. But I think that as we do that, I think the other side that I would ask that we talk about, or at least agree upon, is that I'd like to make sure that we have this posted on our website so that, you know, it's clear and easy for people to say as they start going, okay, I want to reserve Copper Sky. I go to community services. I drop down to Copper Sky. You know, there it is, right there in big bold print, and it's found in Pecana's side. It's found in the library side. You know, whatever this is, so that they know, oh, I need to be asking this 30 days out or 60 days out, whatever the council comes to a decision on. Councilman Chapdos.
If I can make a suggestion, and I don't mean to add to anybody's work burden, but we've produced some dynamic brochures lately. What about doing special events in the city, and also maybe offering this as a Maricopa 101 for our MAP advocates? Because it not only applies to things on city facilities, a lot of times people do things in HOAs that impact public safety or other city services, streets, transportation. They need to know what our expectations are. I don't want to really leave that to chance going forward, especially with the increase in events that we're seeing.
Councilman Kimball.
That's a good point, because it hits on something that I was going to say, and I think that there needs to be exceptions. You brought up a very good point in that somebody might want to have an event or have scheduled an event a year out, and when it comes down to, you know, 45 days prior, they didn't know that they needed a special event permit. That happened to me in the city of Mesa and it was a 90-day thing, and when I turned in my application, it was 30 days before, and the young lady that took my application said, we'll get this done for you so you can have your event that you've been planning for a year. So, you know, making exceptions and having staff have discretion in that regard, I think is key, and that should be part of said policy. So I'm going to go again and say special events should require to be put on, you know, council consent, and that's who would need to have council approval for their fee waiver, but everything else I think should be at the discretion of staff. That's what I would include in the motion, if you want to write that down.
Okay. So again, that takes us again back to the 30-60. Seemed like we were all okay with that then, yes, right? 60 on a CUP, 30 otherwise. Okay, got that. And then the final one is the proposal. Again, is it a once-a-year thing with everything involved? Is it only 2 times for any given agency? There's a lot in that. So if we can get some clarification from everybody, again, just trying to boil it down and taking into consideration exceptions to the rule kind of thing. Who would like to approach that? Vice Mayor?
Would it make a difference for you, based on what Councilmember Smith is proposing, whether it be once a year or what Councilman Manfredi suggested?
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, I don't think it really matters. My concern is I wouldn't want to limit it to you have to submit for the entire year, I guess, because you don't know what might come up, or so I guess maybe I'm just not 100% clear of what Councilmember Smith is or proposing or asking, because sometimes it's hard to know what, when you're, or for example, in swimming, my husband coaches swimming, and so annually they get the Arizona Swimming Association, they get together and they decide, which teams in the Arizona Swimming are going to host certain specific meets that, bring in money. They're like fundraisers for the team, and it's like a bidding process. And so you might not necessarily know, what you're going to be able to host or what they're allowing you to host. So I guess that would just be my
Councilwoman Smith, do you
devil's
wanna,
advocate, I guess.
approach that?
Okay, so if we go back to the beginning, Councilmember Manfredi said, why 12 months? That's how we got here. And I totally support that idea because I like flexibility. And so it was only because the original policy was written within 1 year that I said, here's an alternative, consider your whole year for your organization, submit that one application, it could have multiple events. But I would be open to the idea that there aren't those constraints, and that the Parks Rec and Library, the city manager, Christie, and the city council, when necessary.
So rather than trying to mitigate or legislate who and when people can submit,
Yes.
we're just simply saying, back to Councilman Manfredi's, is that you can only submit you can only get fee waivers for your organization twice in 1 year.
Oh, I don't.
Is that?
Why even that? And let me give you an example. Today I met with the Maricopa Arts Council. They're a council, a nonprofit, they just became an official nonprofit, that could bring wonderful, wonderful things to the city of Maricopa regarding arts, all kinds of arts, visual, musical. If they were able to provide 4 events a year, and they needed the help because of financial constraints, it's a hard world in the art world in terms of finances. I would welcome those 4 events at a Copper Sky, at the park, and I don't want them to be constrained by 2 events a year if they're bringing art to Maricopa. So I don't know that I want to put that kind of constraint.
Okay, let me contest that for 1 second.
Okay.
Though, because therein lies the issue. The issue is where individuals place value. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's great to have art. It's important to our city, everything else. But if Vice Mayor Brown says this organization over here should have 6 events a year, and who are we to stop them, then suddenly we find ourselves in this spiraling out of control motion because it's where value is placed on a given portion. So again, the nature of the policy is to create some sort of a standardization to say, you can't have it more than once or twice or 3 times or whatever it is we come up with. But I think that's the only issue to that issue, because I completely agree with you on the flexibility. I have a hard time, we skirt the policy altogether if we don't comply to the same amount for every group that feels that their issue is the most important issue on the face of the planet. And that's the only thing we need to consider.
And I guess the question is the Parks, Rec, and Library Committee able to discern that as they see applications come through so that the flexibility is there and there aren't those constraints?
It's up for council. Did you have something, Councilmember Kimball?
Similar to what you just said, just not as eloquently. But
We're long-winded.
To what Councilmember Smith said, I don't think that everything needs to go through PRL either. I mean, we're adding all these levels that I don't think are necessary. I think that city staff, Christie, they have the ability to decide that's outside of a special event permit.
Yeah, I think if somebody calls and they want to use a room in Copper Sky, that you personally, city staff can say, yeah, it's $100, yeah, and let it go, without having to go to PRL and then through council. It's not needed. It's just
But City Manager Rose, I think one of the things again there that we want to be careful of too. I completely agree with giving staff that ability, but I know that in our conversations over the past year, one of the things we've always been very careful of is that if staff is going to typically make a waiver or again, we have a PRL committee for the reason that we want them to vet these things, we want them to go through it, and we don't want staff to be on the hook of saying, hey, council, they just made this decision, you didn't know about it, PRL, your appointed committee didn't know about it, you know, it just happened. I think that's the one thing we always have to be careful of. That's why we have a PRL committee. We want them. I think the one thing we are kind of missing, though, is what you talked about. There's a lot of applications that came in this last year. Well, we've been open since March, so we finally saw that ramp up, especially with, you know, the year end, which is holidays and cool weather. But at the same time, we haven't had a policy, so, you know, there's been a flood. The floodgates have opened. I think that once you start requiring certain people to take certain steps, I think you're going to see that come. Yeah, the brakes are going to get put on a little bit, and so it's not going to be the floodgate that PRL saw in the last 2 months, perhaps. I mean, it might be for a couple of months until the learning curve happens, but something to consider there. Go to Mr. Wade, and then we'll go over to Councilwoman Chapel.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and Christie, and that's the reason why I asked you the question, what were you looking for? So then why would we have to micromanage the process if you already have an understanding of what you're looking for? And I agree that I think if we give you the flexibility to make the decisions, that you're going to make a decision based on what you think your operation can handle. You know, so I'm in agreement. I mean, should it be 2? Should it be 5? Should it be every other week? You know, whatever it is. I think there will be some organizations that will try to take advantage of that process, and that's why we have you, and that's why PRL is there. You know, so if we want to say 2 because we decide we want to say 2, then let's do that. I don't think we've labored the process long enough because we already have staff to be able to mitigate the process for us.
Okay, Councilwoman Chapel, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Something that several people have mentioned, though, is that the sustainability aspect of these special events that are repeaters. One of the things, if you're requesting a budget, you should see either there's an admission or a revenue stream to help offset some of the costs that they're asking to be waived. And if it's something that's successful over time, they need to build that into it. Other thing that you mentioned earlier is you need to assign a value. If everything's always for free, where do you say no? Exactly. Then how do you distinguish what's of value to the community? Mr. Mayor, the other question that I had was distinguishing between, are we saying with the policy that hard costs will not be waived, or are we going to build in language that says they can be reduced at a discretion of appropriate staff, PRL, city manager, whatever?
I think we stay with what it has.
Well, what it says is the hard cost should be covered.
So not waived.
But they can be reduced.
Okay.
Or can they be? Yeah.
City Manager.
Mayor and Councilmember Chapados, normally in the implementation of the policy in the past, albeit has been very loose, we have not eliminated hard costs. One of the issues to consider, the reason for developing a policy in part is because we still have to pay for the facility.
Right.
And so we wanted to limit the number of waivers that would occur, but still in that limitation, not completely restricted. And when you allow it to occur, allowing us to be consistent in our implementation. So being fair to everyone. Right. Limited amount, fair to everyone to apply and get considered. But we still want to focus on making sure that it's in our desire to support nonprofit agencies that we're not incurring additional burden on the city.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. I like and appreciate the ability to be flexible in terms of fee adjustments. I would like to never see us totally waive hard costs. But if we can cooperate, especially with advertising or publicity or that kind of thing, I think we have options. That was the clarification I was looking for.
Agreed. Yes, Councilmember Freddie.
So on this, what we've been working on here is, are we going to say that they can do no more than 2 waived events in a calendar, in a 12-month period?
12-month period. I would as well. Everybody else? Okay.
That's good.
All right. Excellent. Yes. Yes, absolutely. The nonprofit added. Okay. All right. Is it clear as mud now? Wonderful.
So I'm definitely going to have to go back and listen.
All right. So I will go ahead and make this motion just because I have it written down somewhere, somehow, kind of. I'd like to motion that we approve this with the recommended changes that Councilwoman Chapato's comments earlier on about the things she'd like to see added to the application be in there. The nonprofit language that Councilmember Smith mentioned, the website notification. So there's, again, another way for us to get the message out. Again, adding latitude for the city manager to make those snap decisions if needs be. But that also included the language we talked about in the reduction of possible fees, but with the knowledge that hard costs are there, and trying to always recoup those. That there is a 30-day standard for most things, but a 60-day standard minimum if a CUP is required, and then that there will be no more than 2 potential acceptances of any given nonprofit for waivers in a consecutive 12-month period, no matter where they fall.
Right.
Did I miss anything? What's that?
Liability.
And that the liability be in there as well,
Yes.
included, as Councilmember Wade had said. With that, that's my motion. Is there a second? Thank you. That is a long motion. That's right. Motion and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none. Oh, no, okay. Well, like I said, seeing none. No, just kidding. Moving on here. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very
you.
much for your patience on that. All right, now we're on item 5. Can you believe it? Welcome to a long night. All right, so Mayor and City Council shall discuss, possibly take action on approval of an amendment to existing contract with New and Company, in the amount not to exceed $16,000. Ms. Ainsley, Ligner.
Mayor Price, council members, this evening I'm presenting an amendment to the existing contract with Carl New of New and Company, the consultant for the Maricopa 2040 visioning process. The amendment calls for an increased amount not to exceed $16,000, bringing the contract from $46,000 to a total of $62,000. This addition is for the professional services required to expand the community participation in the community forums and the subsequent work with the issue project teams that are meeting in January and February. Typically, 4 and maybe 5 community forums would be sufficient for public input. Here, given that this is Maricopa's first visioning process, it was appropriate to expand the forums to a variety of locations. The city ended up offering 9 community forums at 6 different locations, and it was critical to ensure that there was opportunities for public input. If you do have questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those for you. Mr. Mayor?
Any questions? Council, yes, Councilmember Smith.
I think it's just a date question, but I believe in the contract on the whereas, the July 15th, 2015 should be July 15th, 2014. I don't know if that's critical to get changed or if I'm correct on that.
One moment, please.
It says that city and consultant entered into a professional service agreement, so it seems like that should be a 2014 date.
In the second paragraph, do you see
I
that?
believe so, yes.
I agree that I believe you're correct.
Okay. And then my second question is, have we looked at creative ways to do it within the original contract value?
And I may ask the city manager if he would like to comment on that before I try to answer.
The direction from the mayor and let me do this properly. Through Honorable Mayor Price to Councilmember Smith. I believe that if the direction from the mayor and council was to move forward with the project based upon the original amount, then we would be successful in providing you with a vision document. I don't believe that that vision document would be the same quality that you would have if Mr. New was involved. So to answer you, yes, we could complete it within the original amount that was approved. but also I wouldn't recommend it because I don't believe that the end result would be the same quality.
Other questions? Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Webb.
Mr. City Manager, so I'm going to make sure I understand correctly. If we don't do this, then he will not continue with the process as it is now, or would continue with the process but just not deliver the same level of service?
No, the way that the original contract was structured, it was based upon what was projected, and that projection was based upon his past experience. It's like any construction project that you might get into. You're not sure about what the requirements are until you're into that project. Now, let me also say that I think there is some shared fault because when we were asking for additional outreach to the community, it was unknown until later on that those outreach efforts were additional costs associated. There were additional costs associated with that. That should probably have been brought forward to or by Mr. New, but that's I think is something that we'll ensure that he's aware of in the future. The consensus that I was getting from I think the prior council on this issue was to ensure that we did a very good job with achieving a very broad representation of the city, and that the end product not be skewed in any way based upon a very limited perspective of what the vision should be. And I believe it was based upon that, some of those discussions that Mr. New went forward with additional outreach as requested by us in some instances. But with our understanding of it was that it was not going to be at an additional cost, and his understanding obviously was that there were costs associated with it. So I think that's where the miscommunication occurred. The end result, I believe, is still good, which is a broad perspective that we were able to achieve by reaching out to Province and Copa and the high school. And some of those things, though, were additional costs with it. Did that answer your question?
Well, it does, sir, in a way. So are we then at the end of our initial value, or is there a percentage of the 16,000 that is expected that has already been spent, or are we already past that threshold?
I'll let Ainsley respond to that question.
We have not used up all of the money that's allocated for Mr. New yet. We haven't completed that. However, we will have to substantially change our action plan with Mr. New should this not be approved. We'll have to, the city manager and I will have to readjust the plans from here to the end of the project to make sure that we do not exceed our contracted agreement.
I'm sorry. Honorable Mayor, Ms. Ainsley, if you might just identify a few of the remaining tasks to be achieved.
Okay. We have 7 more days that Carl will be, Mr. New will be working with issue project teams in terms of helping them to develop their strategies, reviewing their strategy. He's actually taking their work, reviewing their strategies, and making sure that it's all in the proper format. 2 days or excuse me, 3 days to assist in drafting the plan once all that is turned in. Another day of implementation and briefings with the city council, and 3 other days that he just had support as required, incidentals coming up. So those are the kinds of some of the items that he has scoped to be completed before the end of the project.
And those are days that he will be directly involved and directly present at those times.
Correct, and the majority of the time he's here in person. There are isolated circumstances where he and I work together over the phone, or he will complete work and send it to me, but that's more infrequent. More frequently, he's here in Maricopa in person.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
Mr. Manfredi?
When we started the 2040 Visioning Program, it was because we wanted to get an insight of what will be in 2040, right? And then we had a couple more of the meetings put in, and one of them was specifically for the Maricopa Advocate Program. So I was able to bring those people in, and we brought more people to the table to discuss what we wanted to see. There might have been a little miscommunication on who's going to pay, where it's going to pay, and obviously I hate paying more. But I'd like to make a motion to approve 10.5 as it stands.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this item? Yes, Councilwoman Smith.
In looking at Exhibit 1, it doesn't seem to me that it adds up to the total at the bottom. In fact, I think it comes up to about $2,000 more, his modified values,
Okay.
unless I'm including something I shouldn't be including.
Okay. When you,
The
I'm
new
sorry.
Exhibit A?
Yes, I've
Or
got,
1, I think it's Exhibit 1. I don't have it up in front of me.
okay, I do have it. Is there something specific that I could?
The numbers in his revised amount, unless I'm adding something in I shouldn't be adding in that column, don't add up to the bottom line. Just something to look at. I don't know if it's important at this point,
Yeah.
but to me, I added it up and it ended up $2,000 more.
Okay. Mayor Price, Councilmember Smith, I did work through the numbers, and I know it's in a format that's a little unusual for this setting, but and I did work closely in person with Mr. New on the numbers, so I can provide additional information to show that they do add up if you would, if that's requested. It
Okay.
does.
And then I think my last thought is, because I know that we have a lot of residents that are excited about this process, I do want to see it finished with a quality product. My question is there any shared responsibility in this overrun? And I feel as though that's something that we should look at.
Okay. Mayor Price, Councilmember Smith, I believe that Mr. New also felt that there was some shared responsibility, and he did modify his daily rate to by approximately 35%, for 7 of the days to help mitigate this difference. So it did help to reduce the amount.
So that's the amount that's showing here then, right? Is that-
Correct.
So when it says not to exceed $16,000.
That's
I mean,
correct.
That's including that.
It
'Cause that was going to
is.
be my next question as well.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and since I don't have it in front of me, the added days is, what does it add up to, 16? 12? Go ahead.
15 days.
15 days. So I would have liked to have seen a shared responsibility for the entire growth, personally. That's,
Of the 15 days? Instead of just the 7? Is that the ask? So I guess, I mean, that's, yeah. I would second, it's not a second, but yeah, I would agree with the motion or that issue. But again, based on where we're at, I mean, there's a motion on the table. What is the ability to go back and renegotiate that with them? I mean, if we approve up to the 16,000, we can also negotiate that down based on this further ask, correct?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I believe that the intention is twofold. One is to ensure that, and we have already spoken with Mr. New regarding, we would have liked notice sooner, and as a result of that, he reduced his fees going forward. Also, the intention is to make every effort to use internal staff to reduce those costs further. So I think that Ms. Ainsley recognizing that she will be pretty busy with the IPTs, and so it has been made crystal clear to Mr. New that if the mayor and council move forward with this amendment, that we would not be back here.
Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Chapados.
Ainsley, could you clarify for me, I'm not so much concerned about the number of days as the deliverables at the end. With this extension of the contract, will we get Mr. New's oversight on the visioning document?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Chapados, yes.
Okay, so this will cover everything that we have in terms of expectations to produce that visioning document at the end under this maximum amount?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions this time? All right. Well, I think that that direction still remains clear, that if there's additional negotiation possible, that the council would like to see that. But other than that, there's a motion and a second. So is there any further discussion on this then? Other than that, can I have a, excuse me, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Nay. So we have 2 nays. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Takes us to item 10.6. The mayor and council shall discuss possible take action to approve an award and contract to Aiken Gardner Construction for construction manager at risk. This is for pre-construction services for the Edison Road improvements. This award is not to exceed $81,965.06 in compliance with City of Maricopa Purchasing Code. Bill?
Good evening, Mayor Price, honorable Mayor Price, and honorable members of council. I'm Bill Fay, I'm the Public Works Director, and I'd like to talk in tandem for a little bit about 6, 7, and 8 because they all follow the same procedure. We'll address each specifically, of course. But, there are 3 basic ways, there's a dozen ways to procure a construction project in Arizona, but there's 3 basic ways available to public agencies. Design build, where we hire one firm, either a designer or a construction firm, usually a construction firm that hires the architect and the designer as their own subconsultant. We have one contract and everyone else is a subconsultant to them or a subcontractor. On the other extreme would be design bid build. It's where we hire an architect or a designer. They design the entire project, soup to nuts. We end up with a set of construction drawings, 100% plans, and we bid those, hard bid, and get a hard number. In between is a construction method called CM at risk. It's one that we are well set up to use. It's in many ways best for Maricopa, and it's a decision frequently that we use when it comes to complex projects. In this method, we hire a designer to design the project for us, similar to for the architect who designed this building, for example. And then at a certain point in the design process, we also hire a construction firm. Each of these hiring decisions are made based solely on qualifications. We cannot consider price or factors that influence price. I don't like that. I was on the committee that wrote the law. I got resoundingly trounced in the legislative committee that was feeding the law to the legislature. I didn't vote on it or anything, but it's just the way it is. We cannot consider price when we hire these firms. We bid this essentially on qualifications and then negotiate the price with them. If we can't negotiate a price based on our estimates and based on our experience, we terminate negotiations and move to the next firm and then the next firm down. In a CM at risk situation, we hire a designer, and somewhere after about 30%, we can do it right at 0%. I have done it before where you hire both at the same moment, but realistically it works best if somewhere after about 30% design, we hire a construction firm. We select them, and then the first thing we do is we hire them for what are called pre-construction services. This is essentially taking the construction firm and bringing them into the design process. Usually the cost for pre-construction services is anywhere from 2 to 4% of what the total construction budget is going to be. A little bit more for some complex projects, a little bit less if we're later in the design process, but a small amount of the construction project. They develop the guaranteed maximum price. They work on construction sequencing, value engineering, and constructability reviews. This gets the construction dudes in with the architects and the eggheads, the people who are making the aesthetic design decisions and stuff, and the guys who say, yeah, it may look pretty, but that's going to be a real pain to build. And it theoretically, and actually what happens is they develop a guaranteed maximum price at several stages, and hopefully as they're involved in those stages happen, the GMP is going down, or we're reaching in and making changes and making it go up, but hopefully not that. So in this case, what's happened is we have used CM at risk to design and ultimately build hopefully ultimately build three separate projects: Edison Road, the new police substation, and the Public Works Fire Fleet Admin Building. So the first of the three is Edison Road. For Edison Road, we hired a designer, EPG Group. They're the same ones who were doing the ADOT DCR for the grade separation. And they designed, or they have begun the design of the Edison Road project. We conducted a solicitation and we hired Aiken Gardner Construction. It's a firm I've worked with a lot of times in the past. We selected them about a month ago, and this is the first phase. Essentially, this is the construction hasn't begun, permitting hasn't happened, the design isn't even complete, and we are hiring them to do pre-construction services. The various, I've got a rough scope here, pre-construction or pre-qualification of the subcontractors. Unfortunately, the way the laws work, we can't just hard bid the subcontractors either. I don't like that either, but value engineering, site logistics plan, all those kind of professional services that come before you start pounding nails and stuff. So this first item, 10.6, is to hire Aiken Gardner for pre-construction services. Later in the process, once they've had a chance to sink their teeth into the process and the design has gotten more mature, we'll be coming back for an actual construction project contract, similar to what we're doing for 10.8. We don't have a price for what this, for Edison Road yet. We have an estimated budget from the front end, but the actual, yes, this is what I agree to build it for. We don't have that number yet, and we won't for a number of months. A pre-construction services contract will last anywhere from about, well, it can last up to 2 years, but realistically it's anywhere from about 3 to 6 months. So that is the first item. Actually, most of what I just said covers all of the items, but particularly that is 10.6, which is the pre-construction services for Edison Road. And then on site specific, does anyone have any questions about what this specific project is about?
Questions? Okay. Well, Bill, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and make a motion on this one and we'll move to the next one if that's okay.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to approve 10.6, please?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 10.7, Bill.
10.7 is the same process to hire a firm to do the police substation. Core Construction is the firm that I've worked with them a number of times. They tend to do buildings. Aiken Gardner is overwhelmingly a horizontal firm. They build highways, roads, pipelines. Core focuses on buildings, a lot of education buildings, schools, ASU type stuff. They built Copper Sky, the rec center, not the horizontal work around it in the park. And they were hired by the same process at about the same time to actually do the construction. They estimate it'll be about 3 months, and this is their pre-construction services contract to do those same services I just described for the police substation that we will be building on the north end of the Copper Sky site.
Thank you. Councilwoman Chapados.
Approve 10.7.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 10.8, Bill.
This is the third one. Now, this one is slightly more mature in the process I described. This is the Public Works Fleet Fire Admin Building. This one, we hired the construction firm, or we hired the designer, rather. In this case, we did design build, actually. We hired the construction firm. They hired the architect and any engineers they needed. They have designed the building. We've been through pre-construction services, and they are ready to begin actual construction. This is the big contract. The small one has already gone in the past. This is the actual start pounding nails. Actually, in this case, they'll start with the demo of some of the pads and things that are out there and earthwork. They actually already have their trailers out on site. They thought this was going to, because I told them it was, they thought this was going to go earlier, so they're ready to go very soon here. This is the big contract. It's a little under $6 million. This will build the facility. We have had a presentation before on this. I actually have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just pushing buttons until something happens. This is the Edison Road property that should be, and you can see where Fire Station 575 is, and next to it, that big red thing, that's where we're going to be building this. Most of it's the fleet lot. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay. It just is what it is. We've had presentations previously on, thank you, Ruben. No, not that. Ruben, could I just say next slide and then you advance it and then I won't? Okay, there we go. Stop. Don't touch anything. This is a graphic rendering, we've seen it before, of what the Public Works Fleet Building is going to look like. There are three main wings to it. To the far, if you look at the very top drawing, that's a front view. If you look to the right side is the lobby. That's where the Public Works, the fleet, the offices are going to be. It's not all that much because Public Works offices really consist of John Bemis and a telephone and a place for the guys a locker room, because really everything they do is outside anyway. Although fleet does have a lot of paperwork to maintain about our various vehicles. In the middle of the building will be actually our first real fleet maintenance bay for general fleet maintenance purposes. And the entire, what here is the left side of the building, is the fire maintenance. It's not truly fire admin. Fire admin will be staying where it is and eventually moving into administrative offices. This is actually fleet maintenance, or fire fleet maintenance. This is what the building's going to look like, and this here is the contract to actually build that. I have one or two more slides, but they're not that important, and actually I'm just probably going to make a bigger mess of things if I push buttons.
No problem. Any questions on this? Have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm going to recommend Christie bring something forward every time when I have stuff. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. This takes us to item 10.9, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Maricopa, Arizona, amending section 2-82 of the Maricopa City Code to add the age-friendly Maricopa Advisory Committee as a standing committee. This is for discussion and action. Is there any further discussion on this item? I wouldn't imagine so. Can we have a motion and a second? I need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Kibble?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Councilmember Manfredi? Yes. Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion.
Thank you very much. Item 10.10, going to hear a presentation on the fiscal year 2014-2015 mid-year general fund and Copper Sky Special Revenue Fund revenues and expenditures. I know it's late, but perk up for the finances.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yes, I'll try to keep this lively at 9:30 at night. I know it's numbers and all. Just wanted to present to you the mid-year, fiscal year 14-15 mid-year general fund and Copper Sky revenues and expenditures. For the mid-year, for the general fund, we had a total budget of revenues of about $30.6 million. Right now, we have collected just over $15.6 million, so about 51%, just over 51% of what we had budgeted for the fiscal year. This includes our big property tax payment that we usually receive in November timeframe. The expenditures we have budgeted was just over 31 million. We have spent about 13.2 million, so about 42.8% for the fiscal year. 50% would be right on target. We're just under that. But just to caution that our expenditures will keep steadily moving up in percentage, while our big property taxes usually come twice a year. So we won't see another big jump in property tax payments until about March, April timeframe. A little detail of the revenues. Property tax, we budget about 9.8 million. We have about 49%, so 4.8 million have been received. Local sales tax, we budgeted just under 7 million. We've gotten approximately 3.6 million, so about 52% in local sales tax. Then you have the state shared. The next three is the state shared revenues, the state income tax, state sales tax, and the vehicle license tax. The state income's at 50%. The state sales tax were about 47%, and the vehicle license is just over 51%. The other revenue line item, we have budgeted about 2.5. We've come in with 1.5 million, just over 63%. That other includes business licenses, franchise fees, all the general fund revenues of development services, public safety fees, and there's many different line items that correspond into that to where the list would be very big to put it on here, so I just kind of lumped it in there. I wanted to kind of show the major revenue sources split out and then all the other ones. So, but I do have the detail if council would like to see it. But we have come in about just over 63% of those revenues. So a total of 51.1. The next slide shows each department individually of their individual budgets. This includes personal services and also any one-time or professional fees and office supplies. So with that, the expenditures are pretty much, the department listed is by order, from biggest to smallest. Non-departmental also has the contingency funding in it, the account that we just, that 2 items just were approved. We're about all the way down, as I mentioned, 31%, so about, and we spent about 13.2 million, so about 42%. But as we go through, our revenues may stay steady, but our expenditures will catch up. So we're still kind of on the look for the economy to hopefully pick up a little bit, but we're not too excited about it yet. So we still need to watch our expenditures with our revenues coming in. As mentioned, here's the contingency account. As at the beginning of the year, we started with $1 million, and then also in the time I submitted this, we had a balance of $441,000, but with the 2 items that were just approved by council, with the $45,000 of the recycling services and the $16,000 for the 2040 visioning, that number is now $380,081 for the rest of the fiscal year. Now moving on to Copper Sky. The Copper Sky, we have 4.4 million and roughly 4.4 million also in expenditures, both revenues and expenditures respectively. For the mid-year, we have about $2 million in revenues. This does include the 1.48 million of the Auction contribution now. So we have 46.8 million of the revenues, but that is a one-time revenue. It's not ongoing for this fiscal year. But with our expenditures at 1.6 and it's about 36.2%, those will still keep going up on ongoing expenditures. And so our revenues will, just like the general fund, will probably meet up, and the way we have it budgeted, hopefully stay right in line with each other. We still do have the general fund transfer to do towards the end of the year, and see how the Copper Sky goes with that. With that presentation, any questions?
Questions, Council? Councilwoman Smith.
Ryan, thank you for answering my question earlier that I sent via email. Back to that subject on the other, what I was really curious of is if that other category showed a trend, meaning are building permits up, are licenses up, new businesses coming up, that type of a trend, or is it kind of indicative at this time of the year?
It's kind of hard to predict on this type of year. Some of them are up because of some revenues that come in at the beginning of the year. For instance, business licenses, we get those in the beginning of the year, and then it kind of trails off because right now is just before was our renewal season. Now that kind of trails off, so depending on how that goes. But some of them, like court fees, some of them stay steady. Building permits, that all depends on construction. So if we're seeing peaks and valleys in the construction, it'll depend on when those come in. Also with the public safety, with the fire alarms and some of the other planning fees that come in, it's kind of hard to tell when it trends. Maybe in the third quarter, then I can let you know exactly kind of how that is trending out, if we're looking good above or below, or if there needs to be any concerns or not.
Okay, great, thank you. I was just curious if it indicated something. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Yes.
council members, just wanted to make one comment. If you recall during the budget process, we had a discussion that at mid-year, if our revenues were exceeding what we had budgeted, the intention was to open that process back up to try and fund some of those requests that certainly should have been, would have been nice if we were able to fund, simply did not have the resources. I don't believe that we are realizing the revenues that would allow us to open that process back up. So wanted to advise you that it is my intention not to open it up mid-year, that we'll continue to move forward as it was approved.
Thank you. I would agree with that. Item 1011. Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it. The Mayor and City Council will discuss possible take action to approve the City of Maricopa's 2015 legislative platform. And Paul, you get to give us the Uber Reader's Digest version, considering we heard this last Thursday in a public meeting. So, Uber Reader's Digest.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I wanted to like say, this is the final approval of legislative platform. We had an excellent meeting on Thursday where we got into this and good discussion. In the efforts of Uber, we want to protect our revenue sources. We want to look for economic development tools. We want to make sure that we have the ability to fix the inequities in our property tax situation. That was a big one. Local control is also big. Look forward for efforts to enhance police, fire, public safety, health and human services. One of the, let's see here, quality parks, and let's see, just flipping through here. On the federal side, we also, and transportation, of course, but on the federal side, definitely grade separation, making sure that we find funding for grade separation, making sure that we remove bureaucratic obstacles, still support a Lower Santa Cruz River Alliance. The one that is probably the most new is our efforts to work with the Bureau of Land Management, with BLM, to try to find a way to bring the sale of land and bring the proceeds from the sale of land that's in our general plan area to benefit cities, whether it's something like I-11 or just helping out parks. That federal land, when it's sold, it would be nice if we could use that to better Arizona and better our municipalities. Also, there'll be BLM land in the pathway of projects like I-11, and so we look to have them help us by putting those land properties on the block to help expedite the process of right-of-way acquisition for projects like I-11. Those are just a very quick recap of some of the issues we talked very much more deeply about. It's all in the document that's on the web. This will be my marching orders. I did want to briefly talk about 5 issues, or 6 issues, specifically staff requested changes. By approving this, you'll approve our efforts to go forward to look to raising the cap for a sale of real property from $500,000 to something higher, reducing the required number of paper copies that the clerk must keep. We got to get with the electronic age, to work on taking part in the fix of PSPRS, which is something that we have a small nuance problem in that big fix. We're gonna fight for that. We have our solutions for our squatter issues that we're going to try. These are all staff generated. The property tax issue, that is something generated by our staff. We're going to work to try to resolve that. That'll be a long-term process, but we need to start now with building our coalition. Again, the BLM process with either funding city projects or gratis on the right-of-way, donating them to the project. Both of those are staff-generated asks that we would like permission to go forward with and move forward on the benefit of the city. So by approving this, you give staff the green light to look at those broader platform issues and those 6 specific issues that I just mentioned. Questions?
Perfect. Any questions, council? Yes, Councilman Chapadas.
Paul, is there a possibility that some of these issues may be referred to the AZ League for additional support?
We will, the Arizona League of Cities put together a platform that we have a part in doing. Those are broader issues we support. We support Maricopa issues specifically. Many of those are duplicated, but if it comes between a split between the league and the city, you know, I represent the city. And so that's who we will go with this document. If it happens to align with the league, that's fine, but you are approving a city priorities, city platform.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not,
And I just want to make sure that for the purpose of public record, that we at least indicate to the community that this is something that's important, and that's our quality of health and human services. Example, supporting legislation that will bring additional services and cost-effective resources to our senior and veteran communities. I think the point was made during the call to public, how important that issue is, and I think that we should continue to do whatever we can to continue to raise that question each and every time we have an opportunity to do that. As a city, as it has an impact on us as a city and the citizens that we support or we represent in the community. So I just for the matter of public record, I wanted to put that out there, Paul.
Yeah, we will always be lookout for those opportunities to advance and enhance those services that our citizens need, and make sure that if we can make a difference, we will.
thank you, council. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Motion, second. Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It takes us to item 10.12, but as I understand it, we need to go back into a brief executive session before coming to a decision on this. So, motion, is there a second? Second. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll be back shortly. Okay. I'd like to reconvene on item 10.12. Thank you for sticking with us here. The mayor and city council shall discuss possible take action on authorizing city manager Gregory Rose to enter into negotiation with the contractor deemed most responsive through the city's procurement selection process for the recycling and household hazardous waste drop-off station operation. This is an RFP, so this is for discussion and action. It's pretty straightforward and clear. Obviously, the city procurement process has out for this, and I believe that's coming to a close. And so with that, we just want to making sure that we're trying to accomplish a seamless transition or a seamless ongoing, depending on the people that have participated in the procurement process and the RFP, that we want to give Gregory the opportunity to negotiate that so that we can make that as seamless as possible throughout the end of this month. So if there's any other discussion on this action, if not, yes, Councilmember Kemble.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve this agenda item.
So there's a motion. There's a second, Mr. Manfredi. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and that will adjourn our meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Second. Motion and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.